Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of making our promotion caps. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I wanted to show you a few things that I did, just gathering stuff around my house. I tried to avoid gathering anything that would be very unlikely to find in anyone's home. So I have crayons and markers and stuff here, but I didn't have any of my other supplies out. I'm not going to pull out any of my acrylic paints or oil pastels. If you have those at home, feel free to use them. There are great ways to sort of do all over cover, let that dry with acrylic, go over with oil pastel. Those things are wonderful, but I'm gonna show you in this video how to do things with stuff that might be more commonly found around the house. So, remember last time we made our cardboard band? I'm gonna show you what I did with that. So on the inside, you can still see the glory of Cocoa Pebbles. Shout out to Cocoa Pebbles. And then I just went ahead with marker and went around the outside to make a Notre Dame themed color pattern. Now, you can always choose to go to the side that's the most flattering. I use this color of tape. So I'm going to find the side where you can see it the least and use that as my front. May not have been the best day to wear pigtails. That's okay. So now that I have it securely on my head, making sure it still fits, you can always sort of bend it. If you end up with a shape that looks like this because you bent it one way, you can go back and push those in so they end up a little bit more rounded. This is all that I'm gonna do to the outside of mine right now. I also wanna encourage you, if you have beads or glitter or really anything that you think would be a great contribution, feel free to go ahead and glue those on. But if it's something heavier like beads, make sure that you put the glue down, set the bead in the glue, and then you're gonna need to let it sit for probably about 2 to 3 hours to make sure it really sticks on there before you start moving it to go glue something else. So it takes a little while for that glue to set. Now I made a white top last time. This time I did it with black construction paper. Whatever you have lying around is absolutely fine. If you're working with a kindergartner and they want to draw a picture of some of their favorite things, I highly recommend that you give them crayons to work on the black paper. Now the reason for this is if you use colored pencils, you might see them a little bit. If you use marker, you probably won't see it very much at all. But if you are using crayon on black construction paper, that wax is going to help it show up. There'll be more contrast between the paper underneath and the color of your crayon. Now, talking about contrasts, if I'm using a dark, dark blue and I put that on my black, it'll be incredibly hard to see. Whereas if I'm using a white and I put that on my black, it'll be very easy to see. So just keep things like that in mind when you're working. It doesn't really matter. It does not have to be perfect. You just want to make sure that whatever beautiful creations you have your scholar make are actually going to show up. And I wanted to show you a few other things that I did have around the house that you might want to use. I have some puff paint. If I was going to use a thicker piece of cardboard for the top, we talked about if you don't have construction paper, let's say you use another piece of cereal box, you can always wrap that in fabric. Use Elmer's glue to have the fabric set on the back, and you could use puff paint all over the top. Puff paint's gonna be a little bit too heavy to wanna use on construction paper. So I'm gonna keep looking for something that's a little more appropriate. Just wanted to give you guys that idea. I don't have any pics of myself as a scholar, but if you have a headshot of your kid from last year or from this year and you wanna cut that out or make a copy of it to put on the front, that could be a cute little addition too. Names and bubble letters are always a really big hit in the art room. A lot of students love when I can write their name in bubble letters or they can work on it themselves. I would say kindergarten through 2nd grade, you want to probably help them. And 3rd through 5th grade, they should be able to kind of figure it out themselves. We've talked about some ways to do that. I also found some playing cards around my house. This is an old set. A lot of them are missing pieces. So I decided I wanted to use these to sort of emphasize the fact that we're graduating kindergarten. So I made a K. I'm gonna do my T and the H out of these little hearts. And then I'm gonna make a big heart out of the queen because you wanna celebrate the fact that your scholar has worked so hard to come this far and that they've been incredibly successful, like royalty. So I already went ahead and traced these. Now I'm gonna go back and cut. I'm gonna pause so you guys don't have to watch me cutting all of this. We'll pick it back up in a second. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys on this last little end that I'm doing as a part of my kinder. If it's been a while since you cut something really small and detailed, I just wanted to show you some of the tips. And especially if you have someone who's been in my class before, we've talked about these tips in class, so they might already know. When you are cutting something that is really small and detailed, You always want to cut as far back on your scissors as possible, closest to where what I call the cross or the X of the scissors. It's easy for the kids to visualize that. This is where your scissors are strongest, so you're least likely to slip or make a mistake or sort of rip instead of actually cutting. So avoid using the tip of your scissors, even though it seems logical to use that for precision cuts. Go ahead and try and cut it from as far back as you can, close to the handle. The other thing is that when you are cutting something really fine and detailed, you actually want to move the paper more than you move your scissors. So I'm just going to cut off these straight cuts here. And I'll show you what I mean when I get up to the top of the end. So now I'm going to do a curve. Rather than moving my scissors, which could result in me accidentally making a mistake and cutting off the top of my end, I'm actually going to move the paper and get a good hold here. So I'm going to put it far back on my scissors. And as I'm cutting, I'm going to twist that paper. So my scissors stay in pretty much the exact same place the entire time. And I just move the paper to get what I want. A little bit of white there, I'm going to snip off. There I have my end. Go back and do the inside now. And with a cut like that, it's a little bit easier to just kind of trick the eye and do 2 straight cuts up and just sort of angle them. Pull out the center. Just some tips in case you haven't done a lot of precision cutting for a while. Okay, so now I have Kinder. I'm gonna kind of think about how this looks. I'm showing it to you guys upside down first. I have that out of my hearts. I'm gonna turn around and see what I think of it from here. Maybe I would want to put my scholar's picture in the middle, something from home that we have. Maybe I'll do my heart sort of down here to balance it out. Now, I have some Elmer's glue. If you don't have Elmer's glue, you can use tiny amounts of tape. We talked about tape loops in the last video, where you tape the loop around itself. I'm going to show you both. I'm going to start out by taking a tape loop to do my heart. So take a little piece of tape. Make a loop out of it. Roll it all the way around itself. I'm going to put that on one half of my heart and press it down. And I'll go ahead and grab some more. Make a second tape loop over here. Put that on the other side of my heart and press it down. Now this is a good way to have something sit, but if you want to have this last for a really long time, I do recommend that you use glue if you have it. So, okay, right there in the corner, so it's opposite of the heart. I'm kind of trying to create a little bit of balance here. If you are helping a kindergartner make this, I highly recommend that the kids get to help glue. One way to keep it from being a mess, if they're not quite in control enough of their fine motor skills with their hands, is to pour a little bit of glue out for them on a paper towel, on a piece of cardboard, on a plate even, and then let them use the Q-tip to create dots. That way they get an idea of how much glue they need, and there's less chance that there'll be a mess that someone has to clean up later. It takes a little while to learn how to have that control. But since I've done this before, I'm not saying I'll never make a mistake. I'm going to go ahead and just do it using my hands in the glue container. And it will take a little bit for this to dry. See, I got a little bit of glue that squeezed out there. Everybody makes a little bit of mistakes. So I would recommend doing everything that needs to be glued first. Let that sit for a couple hours and then come back and decorate around it with any colored pencils, crayons, markers that you might want to use. And I abbreviated Kinder instead of doing the entire thing. I took out the I and the E, so NDR. So this is all gonna dry for a little bit before it's ready. If you do notice that there's something sticking up a little bit, you can always kind of spread the glue out so that it goes all the way to the ends like I just did with my K. This will take a little bit to set. In the interest of time though, I'm gonna use this like it's already set and just keep going. Another really fun thing to do, this takes a little bit of practice, is to use yarn around the edge or to sort of emphasize different shapes. So Let's say one of the memories you have from this year is the first time that your kid was able to name all of their shapes: rectangle, square, oval, circle. We talk about that a lot in art, so I'm pretty partial to it. What I might do here is help my scholar or ask them to do it with a Q-tip. Draw those shapes for me. What are some of the shapes we learned in school this year? Very good. Triangle. See, we all make mistakes. And just sort of draw it with the glue on the paper. And then you can use yarn to go over those shapes. And once again, this is something you're going to have to sort of eyeball. And it's going to have to sit for a while before it's completely secure on the paper. This is a fun way to sort of review with your scholars some of the things that they learned with their teachers this year. Now, if you are older, let's say you're making this and you are learning about fractions this year. I remember there were some fractions that were very difficult for me at one point in my life, and I was super proud of myself when I understood the concepts. Anything that you want to ask your scholar about, what's something you're proud of this year, or something that you know they worked really hard on to master, you can find a way to incorporate that into the design that you put on their promotion cap. Because remember, this is celebrating all the hard work they've put in this year. So I'm going to do some of these shapes. When I get to the end of the glue, just snip it off. That way I don't have to measure ahead of time unless I want to. And this would be something that would be great to go back over once the glue has dried and color in the inside of the shapes. The yarn's just going to make it a little 3D kind of pop, give it that artsy decorative quality that we want to have to make sure that every promotion cap's a little unique. And I will say, teachers are going to be there. When you guys are in cars, no one will be getting out, but we would love to take some pictures of the cool things that you guys did to decorate these promotion caps. Send them to homeroom teachers. Let Miss Green know that you did the band of your graduation cap in Notre Dame colors because you are so proud to be in Notre Dame. All right, so I've got some shapes. Once those dry, I'll go over them on the inside with some light colors. Like I talked about before, if I'm thinking about colors that are going to show up on here, I might use the light orange instead of the dark orange. I might use a pink and a lime green, something to go over it. Or if you want to do your kip colors of green, orange, and blue, you can do that. Another way you could use this yarn is to create a pattern around the outside. Sort of emphasize that. If you have any glitter in your home, a really cool thing you can do is to put down a line of glue. You could do zigzags or waves or dashes and then put some glitter on top. But I will warn you, if you don't know, glitter is incredibly messy and it will continue to show up in your home years after you've used it. It's just the way it works with glitter. I'm going to use a little bit of puff paint here, sort of add a little bit of decoration. It's gotten a little bit old, so I'm going to shake it up. Give me a second while I agitate it. You don't need to watch me shake it. All right, got that a little bit better mixed up now. Still not perfect. Now the art teacher and me would love for you to point out to your kids if they're using wavy lines or zigzag lines or dotted lines. I right now am using a wavy line. And like I said, feel free to ask your scholar if they would like for you to help them write their name in bubble letters. I just know that's a big fan favorite, and it'd be really cool for us to be able to see from far away the name. So I'm going to go ahead and write what I was called when I was in kindergarten on here. Got some names, some shapes. I do happen to have some crazier yarn around my house, so I might do a little bit with that. Really just feel free to have a lot of fun with this, because this is something that hopefully you and your scholar can look at years later and remember making it together when we were stuck inside during that crazy COVID year. Anything that adds a little bit of texture or pizzazz can really make it stand out. Some other things I found in my home that you might want to use. I am probably going to add some buttons on here. The cool thing about the buttons is they sort of emulate the middle where the tassel hangs down, and that's a lot of fun. Need a little bit more glue for this yarn. Some yarns are trickier than others. And if you get tired of getting a little bit of glue on the ends of your fingers here, I know you can always use a toothpick to sort of hold something down, and then just take it off once you've pressed it down the way you want. So I'm now going to choose my decoration button that's going to go in the middle. I like the look of this gold one, but since I didn't use cardboard and I used paper, I'm going to look for something that's not quite as heavy. I'll go with this shiny one right here. I could put it right in the middle, but since I put my name near there, I'm actually going to put it down a little bit so I don't cover up the work that I've already done. With a button like this, I want to be a little liberal with the glue. Like I said, just know that you're going to let that sit. And this is something I would let sit and dry for, like I said, just a couple of hours before I go back and add anything else. And what I'm doing here is, if you saw me pause, I'm kind of looking for the space that doesn't have a lot on it already, because I want to go back and add some details to those spaces. It's all about sort of composition here. So I made kind of flowers out of this yarn. I'm just kind of having fun being creative. I'm going to add some buttons to the bottom of those so they look like bouquets. I can go back when they're completely dry and add some crayon at the top so it looks like things are growing out of them. All right, so this is what I have so far. I'm going to let it dry for a couple of hours before I go back and add some color to it. I will probably add some things down here just to make it stand out. I could put pictures of my friends. I could put pictures of my teacher. I could just put a picture of me, maybe performing at the first dance performance this year, music performance, something I'm proud of. Once it's all dry, I'm going to do what I showed you guys last week, where I would turn this completely over. This is after it's dry. And then I will put the cap on top of it. I'm going to show you this with a clean piece of paper. Put this on top. You really want to look at it from above to try and get it as centered as possible. So I'm going to kind of move it around. If you want to measure and be really precise, that is absolutely fine. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it from here. All right. Now that I see how it is, like I said, I really don't recommend glue for this part. I recommend using tape. It's going to be a lot stronger than anything else that we have. So starting on this side, sort of pressing it down, 90-degree angle. I recommend you do that at least 4 times, so you have 4 good grips from the rim of your promotion cap all the way down to the top. You notice it gets a little off kilter. Nice thing about the tape is you can sort of adjust it. And if you want to add more so that you can't see any in-betweens when you are wearing it, you can add as many as you want. One way to really secure it, if you have enough tape lying around, it's completely up to you, is once you've put these pieces on, and I'll show you the inside in a second, you could actually go around the entire inside. A couple of really big pieces. And put them horizontally against the bottom. Curl the pieces up to the side just to make it extra secure. Now, the more tape you put on, remember, the harder it'll be to adjust afterwards. So make sure you've really got it and you've tried it on a couple of times before you glue. So pretend that this is my decorated one because we're still waiting for that one to dry. Got my cap. I'm gonna put it on, see if I look a graduate, like I'm ready to be promoted. Pretty good, although I actually think it looks better when you wear it a little further back. I hope you guys have a ton of fun making these at home. Try and make them as unique as possible. We can't wait to see them. There is no wrong way to decorate. We just want to see what makes you excited about your time at KIPP and really celebrate with your scholar all the hard work they put in this year. Thanks so much for joining in again. And if you have any questions, don't forget you can call me at 317-771-0169. And you can also give me an email at astoughton@kippindy.org. Thanks so much.